The first thing I noticed about her wasn't her skin or her eyes, or the faint bioluminescent patterns that pulsed beneath her collarbone like a second heartbeat. It was fear, not mine, hers. The alien woman stood in the doorway of the diplomatic chamber, tall and motionless. Her long fingers curled slightly as if she were holding back an instinct to strike. The translator implant in my ear hummed softly, adjusting to the harmonic structure of her language. "Do not come closer," she said, her voice calm but razor-edged. "Don't touch me, human." I stopped where I was. That was unusual. Most first contact protocols involve curiosity, cautious fascination, sometimes arrogance. Fear, especially from a species that had mastered interstellar travel centuries before we'd invented radio, was rare. I wasn't going to. I replied, keeping my hands visible at my sides. "I'm Dr. Elias Rourke, Xenolinguistics Division. I'm here to—" She stepped backward. Then, without breaking eye contact, she reached behind her and sealed the door. The lock engaged with a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the room. We were alone. The chamber was designed to be neutral territory. Smooth silver walls, adjustable gravity, atmospheric stabilizers tuned to a breathable compromise between human and non-human physiology. A table floated in the center, anchored by magnetic fields. No weapons, no guards, just the two of us. "You shouldn't have done that," I said quietly. Her eyes, dark, reflective, almost liquid, never left my face. "You are safer with me than with them," she said. "Who's them?" She tilted her head slightly, a gesture that meant something between sadness and resolve. "My people." That was the moment I realized this wasn't going to be a standard diplomatic exchange. The Kelleran had arrived in Earth's orbit 3 months earlier. Massive crescent-shaped vessels that dwarfed our largest space stations. They hadn't fired a single shot. They hadn't demanded surrender. They'd asked for dialogue. Specifically, they'd asked for me. No explanation. Just a single translated message sent across every communication channel simultaneously. Send the one who understands voices not his own. I'd laughed at first. Then the UN Security Council had stopped laughing and ordered me onto a shuttle. Now I stood in a sealed room with an alien woman who looked like she was deciding whether I was worth saving. "Why me?" I asked. She finally looked away, her gaze drifting toward the far wall where faint holographic symbols glimmered. Kelleran script, beautiful and impossibly complex. "Because," she said, "you once heard us when you were a child." My blood went cold. "That's not possible." "You live near the Mojave Array," she continued softly. "You were 8 years old. Your species believed the signal was background radiation." She turned back to me. "You listen anyway." I had no memory of that. Or at least, I thought I didn't. She took a step closer, then stopped, visibly restraining herself. "Do not touch me," she repeated more quietly now. "If you do, everything ends." "Why?" I asked. Her jaw tightened. "Because I am not allowed to feel what your presence causes." The air between us seemed to hum, charged with something more than electricity. "I'm not here to hurt you," I said, "and I don't think you're here to hurt me either." For the first time, her composure cracked. "That," she whispered, "is exactly the problem. Middle." Her name was Salith. She told me that much after several minutes of silence, during which neither of us moved. In Kelleran culture, names were not given lightly. They were harmonic signatures. expressions of identity shaped by memory, duty, and emotion. Salith was a custodian of thresholds. In simpler terms, a guardian of first contact. The irony, she said bitterly, is that I am forbidden from attachment, and yet your species resonates with mine in ways we did not anticipate. We sat across from each other at the floating table, careful to maintain distance. I noticed then that her hands trembled slightly when she wasn't consciously stilling them. What happens if contact is mishandled? I asked. Salith's bioluminescence dimmed. Our biology is empathically reactive, she explained. Physical proximity amplifies emotional exchange. Touch creates feedback loops. Bonds form quickly, too quickly, and that's bad. For diplomats, yes. For custodians like me, it is treason. I swallowed. What happens to you if that happens? She didn't answer immediately. When a custodian bonds with a non-Kelleran, she said finally, they are erased. Erased. Memory severed. Identity dissolved. We called a quieting. The word made my chest ache. So why lock the door? I asked because, she said, her voice barely audible, they already suspect. Over the next several days, Salith and I met in secret. Officially, I was undergoing extended cultural orientation. Unofficially, she had removed my access logs and rerouted surveillance. Each meeting deepened something between us, an understanding that went beyond language. I began to feel things when she spoke, echoes of her emotions bleeding into mine. Curiosity, regret, longing. She felt it too. I can hear your thoughts sometimes, she admitted one cycle. Not the words, the intention beneath them. That seems unfair, I said. A faint smile touched her lips. You think very loudly. Despite the warning, despite the rules, despite the looming consequences, we grew closer. Not through touch, through silence, through shared stories projected into the air between us. Her memories of crystalline cities orbiting twin stars, mine of rainstorms and crowded streets and music played too loud in tiny apartments. She was fascinated by human art. You create beauty knowing it will fade, she said. Why? Because it still matters while it exists. I replied. That answer stayed with her. But the closer we grew, the more dangerous it became. The Kelleran Council summoned her more frequently. I noticed new guards outside the chamber. The air felt tighter, like the universe holding its breath. One day, Salith arrived visibly shaken. They know, she said. What happens now? I asked. They will test you, she said. And me. The test came sooner than expected. They ordered a resonance verification, a procedure designed to detect empathic contamination. If Salith failed, she would be quieted immediately. If I failed, I wasn't sure. The chamber was filled with observers, tall, imposing Kelleran elders whose presence pressed down on my mind like gravity. Salith stood opposite me, her expression carefully neutral. Remain still, one of them intoned. Energy fields activated, bathing us in shimmering light. I felt something tug at my consciousness, probing, searching. I thought of nothing. Then I thought of her. Salith's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. The lights flickered. The elders murmured among themselves. Subject shows resonance. One said, minimal but persistent. Salith inhaled sharply. Proceed to physical verification. Another ordered. My heart slammed against my ribs. Salith turned to the council. "No," she said. The word echoed. "You will comply," the elder replied. Salith looked at me. Just once. And in that look was everything she hadn't allowed herself to feel. I understood then what she'd meant from the beginning. Why she'd warned me. Why she'd locked the door. Because she already knew how this would end. She stepped toward me. "Don't touch me," she whispered again. But this time it wasn't a warning. It was a goodbye. The guards moved forward. Instinct took over. I reached out. Our fingers brushed. The universe shattered. Ending. The moment our skin made contact, sound vanished. Not silence, absence. As if reality itself had paused to take notice. I felt her. Not just her emotions, but her memories, her fears, her hopes folding into mine like constellations aligning. She gasped, her bioluminescence flaring brilliantly, patterns cascading across her skin in wild, beautiful chaos. The energy fields overloaded. Alarm screamed. The elders recoiled, their composure cracking for the first time. "What have you done?" one shouted. Salith clutched my hand, her grip desperate. "I'm sorry," she said, not to them, but to me. Then something extraordinary happened. Instead of collapsing, instead of triggering the quieting protocols, the resonance stabilized, balanced. The feedback loop didn't escalate. It harmonized. The chamber filled with light, soft, warm, impossibly gentle. The elders fell silent. "This is unprecedented," one whispered. Salith looked at me in disbelief. "I should be dissolving," she said. "Why am I not dissolving?" The answer came not from her people, but from me, because we're not overwhelming each other. I said slowly, "We're meeting halfway." The realization spread through the chamber like dawn. The Kelleran had always believed bonding with outsiders was destructive because their empathy consumed and dominated. But humans were different, messy, fragmented, resistant. We didn't dissolve into connection. We held ourselves. The council retreated to deliberate. Hours passed. When they returned, everything had changed. "The custodian Salith is altered," the elder announced, "but not diminished." They turned their gaze to me. "And neither are you human." The verdict was unprecedented. Salith would not be quieted. Instead, the Kelleran would begin a new initiative, reciprocal contact, pairing humans and Kelleran in controlled, consensual bonds to study coexistence. Salith was relieved, but she was also afraid. "What happens to us now?" she asked later, alone in the chamber once more. I took a careful step closer. This time, she didn't retreat. "I don't know," I admitted, "but I know this. Whatever we are, it changed everything." She studied me, then slowly extended her hand. Then, she said softly, "Touch me, human." I did, and this time, the door remained unlocked. Above Earth, the Kelleran ships shifted formation, not in preparation for war, but for departure. First contact had not ended in conquest or collapse. It had ended in understanding. And somewhere between two worlds, between fear and hope, Salith and I stood together, no longer custodian and subject, alien and human, just two beings who had dared to reach across the universe. And hold on,